Today we're digging into some recent developments of an old beef between 50 Cent and Fredro Starr. Seems like the two of them had a pretty serious rivalry back in the day, and that's turned into a good few rumors about how everything went down. 50 claims that he stomped Fredro out and took his watch. Fredro claims none of that ever happened. He said 50 and his boy Tony Yayo were both running away from the fight like they didn't want the smoke. So what's actually going on here? And what did 50 Cent finally reveal? So Fredro got his first big start with a group called Onyx, who eventually got picked up by the late Jam Master Jay of Run DMC. Fredro grew up in Queens, where he eventually got pretty big in the NYC breakdance community in the 80s. He first picked up a mic on a basketball court and started rapping with friends before getting a job at a barbershop. At the barbershop, he was cutting the hair of some of the greats, like Rakim and Big Daddy Kane. That's around the time Onyx started. The Onyx days were rough because even though they finished their career with one multiplatinum record, they lost all their music after a member left to go push rocks in Baltimore. Things were stagnant for a while, but in 2000, Fredro cut a deal to start putting out solo albums. That's also when it seems like Fredro's career for real started. He began appearing in movies, putting out full-length albums, and in 2011, he even started his own label called Mad Money Movement. Maybe his biggest and most well-known role was as Moesha's boyfriend on Moesha.
Yes, sir.
He also showed up in shows like Law & Order and CSI Miami. He also got into production, releasing a documentary about his mentor called Two Turntables and a Microphone, The Life and Death of Jam Master Jay.
I think of Run DMC as the Beatles of hip-hop.
Although Fredro was finally getting some respect from the establishment for the strides he had made in his career, unfortunately there were some people who still had their problems with him. A lot of that started because he felt disrespected by 50 Cent. See, 50 had a big feature on React, one of Onyx's tracks. At a Def Jam concert at the Apollo Theater, they had a rapper named Scarred for Life rap 50's verse. 50 wasn't having any of that. And so a couple of years at the Vibe Awards, according to Fredro, 50 decided he was going to start something. He said, 50 Cent basically started shit with me, started a scuffle, and a bodyguard broke us up. He's a punk. He's been disrespectful to Jam Master Jay ever since he passed. 50 Cent has a pretty long history of beef, and that's not without good reason. 50 grew up in South Jamaica, one of the roughest neighborhoods in New York. Not only that, but he also grew up in the 80s, when the whole situation there was probably at its worst. 50 started getting involved in crime when he was just 12 years old, and he stayed a part of that lifestyle for a long time. While it's kind of hard to trust some of the stuff 50 might say about his childhood, thanks to the whole scandal where he got caught in a lie, talking about how he got shot 9 times and all that, we do know that he was really in the streets. It makes sense, considering 50's mom spent a lot of his childhood selling and involved in street life, up until 50 was 8, when his mom passed away in a fire. Since his dad wasn't around, he went to go live with his grandma. He picked up boxing when he was 11, along with some of the habits he had learned from his parents. He was arrested in the 10th grade after walking through one of the metal detectors. Police discovered that he had brought some rocks and a gun to school. After that, they raided his home where they found a huge stash. They also found a pistol. And instead of serving 6 to 9 years like he was supposed to, he did 6 months in a boot camp and got his GED. He decided that he wanted to make a change, which is where his name comes from, and that's when he started turning his life around. Then in 1996, after rapping in a friend's basement and trying to get a hang of everything, he met Jam Master Jay. Jam Master Jay took 50 on too and taught him all about how music works. From there, it was pretty much history. 50 really took a shine to the whole thing, and even though they would later go on to be bitter enemies, it turns out that for a time at least, Fredro and 50 were on good terms, even to the point where Onyx let 50 on a single called React. That was 50's first actual musical experience. From there, 50's career kind of took off pretty quickly, thanks to the deal he struck up after being discovered by Eminem. That made 50 one of the most recognizable and popular rappers of the early 2000s. And ever since then, he's been in the news. Now, he might be in the news a lot because of all the controversies he's been through, but that's just what it is. On the other hand, while Onyx had a huge hit back in 1994 that could have brought them to the mainstream, they never really had the same level of success or airplay that 50's had pretty much since he started out rapping. I don't want to speculate too much here on all the cause of the beef or why things went down like they did, but I will say that jealousy ends up being a pretty common motive for these kind of things in hip-hop. Everyone works hard, but some people don't feel like they got their due, and that can create massive problems, especially in the case of 50 and Fredro, because they were both studying under Jam Master Jay. Fredro had tons of respect for Jay, while he felt like 50 was lacking in that department. In another interview with The Breakfast Club later on, Fredro explained a little further on what happened from his side of the story. He said, "The tried to swing on me. You know what I'm saying? Some physical shit happened. So we left it at that. I haven't spoken to the since. and that's what it is. In another interview with Vlad TV, Sticky Fingers and Fredro were asked about working with 50, and they said at the time it was cool. J Master Jay always had an eye for talent, and they were trying to put him on because they saw that he had talent. They didn't have any beef at the time, everything was chill. When asked about the issues between 50 and the clique that Fredro ran with, he said,
"It's over with, man. That man getting money, we getting money. It ain't really nothing to talk about. If it ain't gonna make me no paper right now, it's nothing to talk about. That shit is not making me no bread. We ain't gonna go in the boxing ring. We ain't gonna do the Floyd Mayweather Pacquiao thing. We ain't gonna do that."
So at that point, he seemed like he was pretty much done with the whole situation. He also did another interview as recently as November of 2021 where they talk about putting 50 on again.
A long time ago, bro, and it's over with. If it happens, it happens. If not, that's cool too. I don't hold grudges with nobody.
Maybe someone else who can tell us a little bit about what was going on is Tony Yayo. According to Fredro, Tony was at least there. So maybe, even if we can't get an unbiased take on the situation, he might help us piece the whole thing together. Now, Tony says none of what Fredro said about the whole thing was true, but according to him, it's even worse than that. He says that he wasn't even there when the whole thing happened, but that 50 stomped him anyway. He said, "Fredro Starr said he had me running. I was locked up when 50 smacked the shit out of him in the industry." The whole thing is pretty similar to what happened between 50 Cent and Ja Rule, which Fredro mentioned in one of the interviews. The whole situation started a similar beef that 50's still never actually squashed, and with how things have been between them, that's likely to be a problem that never gets solved. 50 seems to hold on to grudges, and a lot of these rappers who are coming up around this time seem like they do the same thing. Anyway, all that to say, and we still don't really know what went down that day between 50 Cent and Fredro, or why it happened. But we do know that 50's found himself in a few situations like this. Beefing is just kind of what he does, and since he frequently shows up on all the interview shows like Vlad TV and The Breakfast Club, there's always so many stories popping up constantly. Hopefully though, the whole thing is done. One fan did say that they respect 50, but at the same time, they don't know if he really moves like that for real. They said, "I think Fifth be lying. He funny as but I don't think his box game in the hood is official like that." Another fan came out of the exact opposite side of the equation, saying, "These guys need to shut their mouth. They got their ass whooped. They should just shut up and move on." To be fair about this tweet though, I mean, pretty much everyone in the equation is constantly bringing up old stuff. So is it really their problem? If people are interested, Fredro's gonna keep talking. What do y'all think really went down that night though? Is it that 50 is capping about the whole thing, or is Fredro just talking to have something to talk about? Let us know what you think down below in the comments. And if you like this one, make sure you peep this next one too.